Hello and welcome to Teach Christ International. I'm your host Ruth Karibu. In case you're new here, karibu sana. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for the love. Alright, so today I want to look at what loneliness is and aloneness, because so many people usually tend to misinterpret these words. Okay, so let's start with the definition of loneliness. Loneliness is the state of the mind causing one to feel empty, alone, and unwanted. Okay, when I looked through the Oxford Dictionary, there was no definition for loneliness. It was just about lone to mean isolation. So basically, it is characterized with depression, social isolation, poor social skills, inferiority complex, introversion. Let's say you have gone to a meeting and even the jargon that people are using there, the technical language you're not conversant with, obviously you'll feel misplaced. So you'll feel lonely, despite the fact that you're surrounded by people. Assuming maybe you have a terminal disease, and people will be there, judging you. Let's say, you're on HIV. Though the narratives are changing, you find we tend to judge people, and that brings about loneliness. Yeah, they could be around people, but they feel misunderstood. Yeah, so another definition of loneliness, as you'll notice, is that it is the absence of connection. So it could be either human connection or even divine connection. Sometimes it's just like you have lost sense, or there's a disconnect in your paths. Hata wewe mwenyewe, you feel so disconnected with yourself, you feel disoriented, so that will breed loneliness. So you tend to find the causes of loneliness could be undealt traumas, maybe abandonment when one was a child. It could also be due to anger. When you're angry, let's say with your partner, you're not likely to talk to them, so they will feel lonely in that house, or they tend to leave. There are people who have been thought that, if you are facing a challenge, you can always leave. Okay. Yeah, there's also past relationships. If they were toxic, obviously you'll feel lonely. Yeah, even when you're elsewhere, you're still thinking, oh, maybe I should have redeemed this or that. So that also brings about loneliness, by the fact that you are now vulnerable. Okay, and you're craving for some attention, especially if you're a codependent. You'll feel lonely, and that's why some people tend to return back to their vomit, because they want that connection. They yearn to do things the way they are used to, the norm. So it's so unfortunate. You'll find in such a scenario someone returning even to a toxic partner where they were disrespected, where they were not given the right treatment. So yeah, that's all about loneliness, and you can see it can be really draining, and it's a bad place to be sometimes. Yeah. Very horrible, because you are craving for this human connection, it's not there. You're craving for some divine connection, it's not there. Maybe some even have gone to churches, they've tried even seeking knowledge from other religions, but they still feel some emptiness. Yeah, there's that void that is felt. Okay, so others have defined loneliness to be the absence of self, and defining loneness like the fact that you're alone. Uko moja kama sahi I'm alone. Yeah, and it's deliberate. Someone will say it's the richness of self. Yes, you're content being with yourself, you're comfortable being in that space, you don't feel any emptiness, you're okay. These things are bad or good depending on how you use them. Yeah, so that's why I'm here to empower you on how you can use the solitude as well as the loneliness to build yourself. Okay, so the first thing about loneliness, the fact that you're craving for that human connection. We all know that we are social beings, so we always crave for that human connection. Maybe you are in a faraway country and you've missed your family, and it's not possible at that time to get to your family. So what do? You'll have to find alternatives to distract yourself. Yeah, they may not be able to fit into that shoe, but at least it's something, it is filling that void. You get to join maybe a fellowship, you get to have friends, you get to start your own family. Hello from Argentina, welcome. I'm from Kenya. So this is an opportunity, a perfect opportunity for that matter, to start putting more energy into connections as a solid investment. These friends will come through for you, even for the mere fact that you can now have someone to talk to, someone to go and do stuff with. It's a perfect investment. There are those relationships you could be in, and you find, especially if they are narcissistic, someone will get to isolate you from the rest of the folks, especially your family and friends, because they will be doing things out there and they are so perfect. But when you are you as the partner are not getting that experience, and you're wondering, am I in the wrong place? And when you voice out, people who we term as flying monkeys will not believe you, because they're used to a different version of that partner. So somehow you'll tend to be isolated. There are even people who will literally be like, just stay at home, I will provide. And they've put everywhere CCTVs. Yeah, if you want, you can bring your friends here, but don't go out. What are they fearing? Because they know if you go out there, you'll be exposed. Yeah, both to good and bad. So there's that tendency to be isolated. But when you're feeling that loneliness, you'll tend to find other avenues to express that loneliness, or rather, to do away with it, you see. You'll tend to maybe go even online just to create some human connections. And I think this is the reason as to why some people are saying that most of the influencers or content creators and people who are successful on the online front tend to have a craving for human connection. Yeah, and sometimes it's not filled by those can we say the gift hampers, they go on, such things. Yeah, they can help you for a while to cope, but again the criticism comes in, and you find if someone was not prepared for such, even for fame, they tend to go into depression. Yeah, because they never expected even things to blow that much. Okay, so I've said loneliness, one, can be used as a pathway to making solid friendships as an investment. The second thing is that it will help you to appreciate the value of family, a healthy family for that matter, and even the role of pets. You see, when you're away, maybe you were bred in a family that was closely knit. As time goes by, you'll tend to realize that, oh, kumbe, this is how life is supposed to be. So I miss this, I miss that. Yeah, so it will help you to appreciate the role of family and pets. The second thing, it will help you to have time to focus on yourself. It's at that time when you're alone that you'll be able to even reflect away from the noise, bustles and hustles of life. When you're alone is when you'll be able to reflect about your life, come up with resolutions, come up with solutions. Yeah, and that leads me to another point which is related to that. It's also a time when you get to find inspirations, because you're alone, you're in a thoughtful mood, pensive mood, and you will be thinking about stuff, and there'll be revelations at that time, even ancient knowledge. And that comes in handy, especially for the old people. You'll tend to find them maybe under a certain tree, and they're just reflective of how their life has been. Yeah, and they somehow have a lot of wisdom that they are able to dispense to the next generation. Also, it's through that inspiration, that's why kuna kitu inaitwa jazba. So let's say I want to write a book. I will have to be maybe in a certain place, maybe watching the ocean, just there's this wind, the water, you're somewhere relaxed, and you get motivated, you get creative. So it opens the creative portals and creative potentials. You start even writing a poem. The poem becomes now an anthology. You see? Yeah. So loneliness can be a good thing. Another thing, it becomes a time for you to realize some of the needs. When you're alone, or rather lonely, it's a time that you'll be like, oh, I crave that something. And you start looking for ways of trying to meet such needs. And you'll be able to tell when your needs are met and not. So at that time, you'll even be having a to-do list. This is what I want in the next maybe relationship. It's what I don't like. This is what I truly crave for. Some of us have a wastage mentality. You don't need something just because of the sake of it, you just have it. But when you're lonely, people like monks who used to stay in caves, they could be literally isolated so that they knew they could survive on the bare minimum. Yeah? And they got to know that you don't really need everything, yeah, on the earth, or rather what life has to offer. Sometimes all you need is to be understood, or to just even have some peace. Yeah, what is the essence of going maybe for the rat chase? You want money, you want what, then you feel there's something missing, there's a missing link. Yeah, so loneliness can be a time to get to know and realize the needs that we have as human beings. Another thing is the right time for prayer. When you're lonely, because you're craving maybe for divine intervention at that time, you'll be able to pray. Look at people like Jesus. Even after John the Baptist had been killed, yeah, his head had been he had been beheaded. You could say that Jesus went to a lone place, maybe for prayers, also just to isolate and get to think life. What is life really? You see, most people tend to learn through pain. So it's at that time maybe you have undergone through a heartbreak. Umechapwa character development mbaya. That's at the time you'll be like even becoming philosophical. You'll tend to ask questions, yeah, and pray for healing in the process. So yeah, loneliness can be a good time to seek divine intervention. Okay, so it can be a gateway to divine realms or awakening. Okay, yeah. Another thing is a pathway, or rather a gateway to intimacy, because you're craving for connection. That's the time you want to have a real connection with something. You are really into it. Yeah, it could be intimacy with the human beings, or divine, or with yourself. You're so much in love with yourself. Another thing about loneliness and being alone is that it can be a gateway to growth. Yeah, at that time when you are lonely, you be like, okay, I have to make something out of this season. So you go and start improving yourself. Maybe you are feeling lonely because you didn't have real connections with people, maybe at your workplace. So at that time, you'll tend to find avenues to improve yourself so that you can even be consulted. You understand? You're seeing that? So it will be a gateway to growth as an individual in all dimensions, especially career-wise. Yeah, it is also a gateway to original thought. It's when you're alone. Actually, even for music, you tend to realize most of us just consume. But when you're lonely, you're in that melancholic mood. That is when you tend to even internalize what each words in a song are. Yeah, you tend to find meaning. in it. So you have original thought, which means there will be that authenticity. Okay, yeah. Another way in which loneliness and being alone can be a good thing is that it helps you to appreciate, or rather be grateful for self-love. It's at that time you'll be able to just sit with those feelings of being lonely and just working on yourself, trying to see things that are good about you, trying to self-parent. Yeah, you'll be hugging yourself, patting yourself, affirming yourself. Yeah, you'll be even singing songs. I am not alone. Yeah, I believe in you see, because you just want to fill that void, and in the process you tend to have self-love. Most people don't love themselves, honestly, but when you're lonely, you're alone, you'll tend to compensate that because you have no alternative, so you tend to self-parent. Another thing is that loneliness can be a teacher. It's when you're alone that you will even get to know who your friends are, who they are not, how you could have been placing high expectations on people, on things that can't come through for you. So yeah, at that time you tend to even ask yourself, what is my passion? What do I need at this time? Why am I here? Why am I feeling this way? So it tends to teach you, and you get to relearn and unlearn some things which help you to prosper. Okay. Another thing is that it helps you to, like, it propels you to even volunteer, because you and you're like, I just have to go and be around people. So you'll tend to even go and do cleanups, go and volunteer in an organization, because there you will meet people, and in the process you are offering service to others, and it can be fulfilling. Even just someone saying thank you, not even immediately, even maybe 10 years down the line, someone be like, you did an amazing job, you went and did that mentorship, I'm inspired, and this is the product. You feel proud. Yeah, you feel happy. Yeah, so it is a good thing. It's when you're lonely, some of us tend to be spontaneous, because you're like, so what next? Yeah. You're trying to fill that void, so you tend to tick your bucket. You're like, oh, before these people, or I had a life, and you start just ticking your bucket list. Maybe you wanted to travel, you wanted to prepare something that you have never done, you're postponing, maybe because you wanted to please someone. That's the time to be wild and mad. Okay. Yeah, maybe you wanted to paint your hair blue, you can do that. You wanted to go to the beach and just dance, you want to do a boudoir photography, just go, 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 because you're free molecule. Okay, so it's good thing. It's at that time also you tend to discover yourself. You tend to even find hobbies like dancing, gardening, all these things. So you get to learn to enjoy your own company. Yeah. Okay. That is how loneliness can be sacred and help you to advance, to explore, to expand. However, loneliness can be terrible. It can be horrible. I want to see how it can be terrible and how it can be a gateway to so many vices. Yeah. One, in most cases, when you feel lonely is when you tend to have suicidal thoughts. You just think, and you're like, does life have meaning? And that's the time most people tend to just do suicide. Yeah, some contemplate. For women, they might not execute, but for men, it's easier for them to execute. Another thing is that it can lead to regret, and you're like, maybe you dropped a partner who was really toxic, or rather, you just it was just an amicable breakup or something. But again, because of that loneliness, you start regretting and you're like, maybe things should have been reversed, and you start thinking how life would have been with them or without them, such kind of things. And as such, it's like literally you're doing yourself some injustice. You're retrograding, yeah? Retrogressing, and beating around the bush, yeah? Instead of just focusing ahead. Another thing, because someone wants to fill that void and emptiness, some use band aids which are not so healthy, like drugs, like sex. So that will be a gateway to addictions and a rabbit hole that will be hard to come out from until there's professional intervention, maybe going through a rehab. So we need to be really careful when it comes to loneliness. You see, sometimes you'll be asking yourself, for example, why did my parent pass away? Does even this God care? And why are people singing, oh yes, he cares, I know he cares? Yet someone is 6 feet under. They were the breadwinner, they was your source of strength, source of courage, and they're no more. And you're asking yourself, does it add up? Yeah. So people tend to have different ways of coping, and some are not really healthy. So some will even go into food addictions, and next minute you have gained weight, you have become obese, and you start feeling bad about yourself. So it lowers your self-esteem. So let's be careful when around loneliness, okay? Another thing is that it can be a gateway to nightmares sometimes. Because you're used to someone being around you, the next minute you're like, how can I live life without them? You start fantasizing them, you are seeing ghosts, such kind of things. Another thing is that it can be a gateway to unpleasant moments, because you just have time, you just go and be around people. Sometimes because you are just craving for that human connection. Let's say you went on an online dating app, you found someone, kumbe they didn't have the same motive as you just wanted connection, and you go to meet them only to be date raped, some date drugged, and all those bad things that do happen. Yeah, some, it's at that moment they're like, you just sleep around because you're not used to being yourself. Yeah, and you're not used to your own company, so you find yourself in companies that are not good. Yeah. Another thing, loneliness can be a gateway to self-doubt, especially where you're in a relationship, like I said, that is toxic, and you'll be asking yourself, are you even real? You just have to pinch yourself, and you're like, could I be wrong? Yeah. You're just even doubting yourself. You're sometimes doing the right thing, and because someone is just there, they're not appreciating the roles that you're playing. They're just ever complaining or not being appreciative generally. You'll tend to lose your mind in the process. Another thing, when lonely, especially at night, you'll have fear. False experiences are appearing real. Maybe you're imagining of being butchered. So because of that fear, it can lead to adrenaline rush. And you know what that means. Over time, if it's repetitive, the cortisol hormone increases, and that means to some point you'll be resistant to even reacting in situations where you're supposed to react in a certain manner. Another thing, when you're lonely, it's when you'll be tempted. Temptations are there, but yielding to them is what leads to sin. So yeah, another thing, it will lead to spiritual insecurity. You're asking yourself, is it worth it? Does God exist? And if he's there, what do I do? Because you feel that loneliness. But as time goes by, once that void is filled, you will just know you are complete and whole, as an individual. You have someone who is besides you. Another thing is that loneliness can be a gateway to diseases, yeah, such as depression. Yeah, people have their own demons that they are fighting out here. So at that time, yeah, there could be that possibility of getting into a funk. You're even unable to get out of bed. You're unable to talk to people, unable to enjoy things that you used to do. Especially if maybe you had a partner, you used to do things in a certain manner, in a certain way. You're in that place and you're like doing those things reminds you or gives you memories about them. So it can be depressive at that moment. Another thing is that it can be really a gateway to pain. You know, just feel lonely and you feel like crying. And it's okay to cry. Yeah. So it can be painful. It can be agonizing, haunting, yeah, and dreadful. You know, you're like, oh shit, this didn't have to happen. But you find somehow when you get to embrace your own company, being a lone ranger, you'll find some peace, some solitude in that. Yeah, because it is said that you'd rather be alone and peaceful than be in a crowd yet misunderstood, or it's really a bad company. Yeah. So all we need to know is that loneliness is temporary. It's not a permanent thing. So just learn to sit with it and have boundaries around it. You know, you cannot push away. No, most people tend to push away, and those emotions manifest in other ways, maybe back pains, stomach pains. Like for me, if I try to suppress any emotion, I'll tend to have some stomach cramps, some diarrhea, indigestion will be happening because you're not at peace at all. So it's good to realize that loneliness is temporary. It's not there to live, or rather to stay. And as much as it can be crippling, it also has good things. Like I've said earlier, it helps you to reflect, to have good company, time to mind your own business, to mind to have a mind over matter. You know, you get to change your perspective around different things when you're lonely. I like when you had that mass mentality, we call it ad what? Ad populum. So because everyone is saying this, you tend to side with the mass. But when you're lonely or alone, you'll have to have an original thought, and that is the good thing. Yeah. So it also helps you to have that art of self-soothing, you know, comforting yourself, parenting yourself, and just telling yourself you're worthy of love, you're worth of everything that life has to offer. All right, so I want to leave at that and just say loneliness as a state of the mind can be manipulated for your own good or against your own good. So I dare you to go and use loneliness for your goodness. And it's human to be lonely. I know sometimes we have been indoctrinated to think that loneliness is bad. We have been indoctrinated to suppress loneliness. But the truth is that loneliness can be a gateway to so many good things that we can use, because loneliness as an emotion tends to tell you there's a missing link somewhere and that needs to be joined, and once it has been joined, you tend to enjoy life, you tend to have peace. Okay, so yeah, that is it. So in the next live I want to discuss about CBC. So yeah, come with your ideas about the competence-based curriculum. What are the vices? What are the cons and pros? How is it helping you and such kind of things. What is the philosophy around CBC? Where did it originate? How is it working? Any challenges that people are facing, okay? That's what we shall be discussing next. So have a good day. Yeah, so what's the time here? It is 8:38. I know people are at work. 8:38 on February, Wednesday. So bye. And I also wanted to appreciate you for the 1,000 subscribers. Yeah, it's through your love and commitment that we have hit that milestone. Until next time, bye bye. I love you.